Welcome to NASCAR News Now. I'm Blake Harms. We're here to get you caught up with last season's highlights, off-season headlines, and this season's storylines. Coming up, we'll cover the latest driver and team moves for 2019, highlights from the Clash, a full Daytona 500 preview, and your first look at brand new paint schemes. We'll also show you how you can get involved in fantasy NASCAR. It all starts right now. With the Daytona 500 just days away, it's time to recap all that has happened in the 3 months since Joey Logano won the 2018 championship, and there are plenty. We'll begin with the institutional changes being implemented in NASCAR. The most anticipated move from NASCAR during the offseason was the announcement of a brand new aerodynamics package for all cars on track beginning this season. Now, this won't be the first time NASCAR fans have seen this package in action. It was first tested in the 2018 All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway back in May. The race featured tight pack racing that hadn't been seen at mile-and-a-half tracks in recent memory. More recently, there was a test held at Las Vegas Motor Speedway earlier this month. Drivers from various teams lined up to make runs. The feedback among drivers was mixed, although it seems to be opening the door to more action at tracks that aren't used to seeing such a style of racing. The overall positive feedback from fans and industry experts has led to the phasing in of this new package. Here's what it entails. The most notable change you'll find with this new package is on the back spoiler. Notice how they've raised it significantly. Also in the front, they've added a 2-inch overhang to the splitter. Now, both of these are designed to create more downforce and make drafting more important at these mile-and-a-half tracks. Also included is a different radiator pan, a tapered spacer, and aero ducts. NASCAR has also made a conscious effort to streamline the sport for fans and teams to make it easier to understand. On February 4th, officials announced new inspection procedures and consequences for all 3 series. It reads as follows: post-race inspections will be completed at the track immediately following each race. The first and second place vehicles will be inspected, as well as one additional car, which will be chosen at random. If a race winner fails inspection, the team will be automatically disqualified, resulting in a last place finish and the loss of all benefits from the win, as well as any stage points. This includes trophies, prize money, and all points associated with the race. As a result, all other vehicles would move up in the finishing order under this scenario. This signals a significant change from previous seasons in which inspections were completed at the NASCAR Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina, often days after the race. NASCAR Executive Vice President of Competition and Race Development, Steve O'Donnell, explained that, quote, "Our industry understands the need to focus on what happens on the racetrack. We cannot allow inspection and penalties to continue to be a prolonged storyline. Race vehicles are expected to adhere to the rule book from the opening of the garage to the checkered flag." This issue was brought to the forefront especially after the Texas playoff race last November, in which Kevin Harvick was stripped of his points after failing inspection. However, the announcement was not made until Wednesday, 3 days after the completion of the race. Harvick had already been penalized earlier in the season, having points associated with his Las Vegas win in March taken away as well. However, under the old format, no replacement winner was declared. Meanwhile, the qualifying format remains mostly unchanged from last season, with a few exceptions. The first round will be shortened from 15 to 10 minutes, and breaks in between rounds will be shortened from 7 to 5 minutes, another effort for NASCAR to streamline the whole weekend. One other major change the sport will see in 2019 is the type of car that's brought out of some of the haulers. Ford has changed its look from the Fusion to the Mustang, which will be used by all Ford performance drivers. The burning question from this change will be if Ford struggles to adapt to the new body style as much as Chevrolet did when they made the switch from the SS to the Camaro in 2018. Well, when we come back, we'll transition from the changes in vehicles to the changes in drivers behind them, and later we'll recap what has already gone down at Daytona Speed Weeks. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Here we go. It's my turn to make history. Start your engine! Great. My name's forever known. Yeah, baby! Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legend.
The Daytona 500, February 17th on Fox.
You're just too big, bud. You ain't gonna fit.
You know where you need to go, right? Go, 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 go!
Can't believe he beat you in a Pinewood Derby car.
18 Final Four trips. 9 National Players of the Year. Legendary coaches and players. An iconic postseason tournament. The Valley runs deep.
Welcome back to NASCAR News Now. I'm Blake Harms. While procedural changes for NASCAR were being made for the 2019 season, the teams were busy making a multitude of driver changes. Perhaps the most notable change heading into the new season is the one being made by Martin Truex Jr., as he will head up the 19 Toyota Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing. The change was spurred by the closing of Furniture Row Racing, where he fielded the 78 car. Citing a lack of funding after 5 Hour Energy failed to renew its sponsorship contract, team owner and Furniture Row owner Barney Visser made the decision to shutter to the 2017 championship team. Furniture Row had a technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, however, and Gibbs made the decision to replace Suarez with Truex and his crew chief Cole Pern. Most sponsors have moved over with him, including Bass Pro Shops, Tracker Boats, and Auto Owners Insurance. Truex has new teammates in Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Eric Jones heading into this year. The sudden change left 27-year-old Daniel Suarez searching for his 2019 ride. It came in the form of a newly opened number 41 team in Stewart-Haas Racing, previously driven by Kurt Busch. The change was announced on January 7th, which, coincidentally enough, marked 41 days until the 500 and Suarez's 27th birthday. Suarez is the latest addition to a team that dominated in 2018, collecting 12 wins through Kevin Harvick, Clint Bowyer, Eric Almirola, and Kurt Busch. Speaking of Busch, the opening for the 41 team was a result of Kurt searching for new options, in which he found the number 1 team of Chip Ganassi Racing. The team released Jamie McMurray from the 1 car at the end of 2018, although he will still run in the Daytona 500 this year in the 40 car and serve as a Fox Sports analyst. Busch brings Monster Energy with him, and he will now be teammates with Kyle Larson. Ryan Newman also finds himself in a transition period after leaving Richard Childress Racing in the 31 team for a new ride in Roush Fenway, getting behind the wheel of the number 6 car. Newman replaces the duo found in Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth, both of which were released by the team following the conclusion of this past season. While Caterpillar is staying with RCR, Oscar Mayer, Wyndham Rewards, and Acorn are among the sponsors teaming up with Newman for the season. Newman's new teammate is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who drives the 17 car for the team. Newman's departure from Richard Childress Racing left an open position, one that was filled by incoming rookie Daniel Hemrick. He comes from the Xfinity Series, in which he also drove for RCR. While he's replacing Ryan Newman, he won't be driving the 31 car. Instead, he will be in the 8 machine, a number that hasn't been used since 2009. Hemrick joins teammate Austin Dillon in the number 3 machine. Meanwhile, 2018 Xfinity Series champion Tyler Reddick will be driving the 31 car for Richard Childress Racing in the Daytona 500. This will mark Reddick's first Monster Energy Cup Series start. Matt DiBenedetto, affectionately referred to as DiBurrito by fans on social media, has also moved teams. He makes the transition from Go Fast Racing in the 32 car to the 95 machine for Levine Family Racing. The opening was a result of Casey Kane's retirement as he faced mounting issues from severe dehydration during the races. Another item of note for LFR is their new technical alliance with powerhouse Joe Gibbs Racing as they make the transition from Chevy to Toyota. Another driver leaving the driver's seat in 2019 is AJ Allmendinger, who departs the 47 car with JTG Daugherty Racing after 6 seasons with the team. He is replaced by rookie Ryan Preece, who moves up from the Xfinity Series. Allmendinger will now serve as an analyst on the NBC Sports Network. Preece joins teammate Chris Buescher as the second car. Another rookie entering the picture this season is Matt Tifft, as Front Row Motorsports expands its team to 3 vehicles. Tipped will drive the full season behind the 36 car, racing with teammates Michael McDowell and David Reagan. Other changes include Corey LaJoy, who fills DiBenedetto's void in the 32 Go Fast racing car, and Landon Castle, who joins Starcom Racing as a full-time driver in the 00 car heading into this season. And while Hendrick Motorsports didn't make any driver changes in the Cup Series, longtime crew chief for Jimmy Johnson, Chad Canals, has moved to lead the 24 team of William Byron, while Kevin Mendering has moved to the 48 team coming up from the Xfinity Series. Well, when we come back, we'll have a fresh look at the paint schemes heading into your TV screen this season. Stick with us.
The most anticipated moment in racing.
The world is revolving around what's going on right there.
You're the man!
And it's the history of our sport. From racing on the beach to this place they got now.
The place is just magical.
You win a race here, it's heard all around the world.
The final 20 laps, I mean, it is just all hell breaks loose.
And there's a fight. Slam into the wall.
Goodness. It's the great American race.
Got no time left.
It's a good thing you kept your fire extinguisher up to date. Don't worry about the smoke damage. I can help.
What'd you do to your kitchen?
What did you do to my kitchen?
I ain't do nothing. It's easy to, that's not me. I can, like, he has a beard just like me, you know, like, I mean, the beard is pretty dope, you know, honestly.
Are you serious right now?
That's not me.
James, that's you.
It lives deep in your soul, driving everything you do. It's what wakes you up early and keeps you up late. It's already inside you, where it's always been, waiting to be developed, informed, trained. The way you see the world is powerful, but the way you will lead and transform it is what we're all waiting for. Valparaiso University, where passion meets purpose.
Welcome back to NASCAR News Now. With a new season comes new paint schemes, and with new sponsors, new rides, and a new Ford Mustang, there's plenty of sharp rides to go around. Let's take a look at the designs that have been unveiled thus far. Note that this is a preliminary list, just the ones that have been released, and that more are going to be released throughout the season. The most anticipated scheme entering 2019 for many was undoubtedly that of Jimmy Johnson. After losing Lowe's at the conclusion of last season, the 48 team was able to secure Ally Financial as a full-season primary sponsor. The car was unveiled on Good Morning America with an introduction by Valparaiso University's own meteorologist Ginger Z. The car still features the iconic neon numbers, but the purple highlights are certainly a new look for the team. Meanwhile, the Ford camp has released a multitude of new paint schemes to match the sharp new look of their Mustang. We begin with Team Penske. First off is Brad Keselowski. He brings 2 new paint schemes so far in Miller Lite and Discount Tire. He'll be running these for the majority of the season. Meanwhile, his teammate Ryan Blaney has a new look with his Menards/Knauf insulation car. Notice the blue hood on that car is a sharp contrast from the all-neon scheme he brought last season. But his PPG paints, one of the favorite paint schemes from last season, stays the same, this time on a new body style. And Joey Logano keeps his Shell Pennzoil Ford. Not much to change there. He'll have a few new paint schemes coming out this season, but this will be the one you'll see on the track most often. Next up is the Wood Brothers. Sole driver Paul Menard, his Ford Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford Mustang there. Also rolling out new schemes is Stuart Haas Racing. First off, Kevin Harvick. He has a multitude of sponsors. First is Jimmy Johns, who will be with him, along with Busch, Busch Light, Mobile One, and Hunt Brothers. These will be the 5 primary schemes he'll be running throughout this season. Meanwhile, teammate Clint Boyer brings on a few new ones. Rush Truck Centers, not much has changed there from last season, but he has a few new schemes in Peak Antifreeze and Blue Def, both of which do look awfully sharp on that Ford Mustang. Meanwhile, the only one released for Eric Almirola so far is the Smithfield Foods car, and the only one for Daniel Suarez thus far is Haas Automation, which brings on a brand new look from last season. Roush Fenway rounds out the Ford collection of schemes. Ryan Newman brings on a new sponsor. We first saw it last season, but they'll be on for a few more races this year, and Oscar Mayer. Meanwhile, Wyndham Rewards is returning to the 6-car. He'll have a few new schemes coming, as will Ricky Stenhouse Jr. The ones released for him so far are Little Hugs and Sunny D. Certainly some colorful paint schemes there. Turning our attention to the Chevrolet teams, first up are the fresh designs from Hendrick Motorsports. As we showed you just a few minutes ago, Jimmy Johnson has a new scheme with Ally Financial. He'll be running this one all races of the season. Chase Elliott brings on his classic lineup of sponsors heading into this season with Napa Auto Parts. It features a revamped Hooters paint scheme, as well as a new look for Mountain Dew and the same classic look for Kelley Blue Book. William Byron also has some similar looks. He'll bring on Exalta, Liberty University, where he's enrolled as a student, UniFirst Uniforms, and Hertz Car Rentals. Certainly some sharp-looking schemes there. Alex Bowman keeps the same ones from last year for the most part. Nationwide, Exalta, Valvoline, and Lumar Windows all coming with him, and you can see those schemes there. Meanwhile, Chip Ganassi Racing rolled out a few new schemes. Kyle Larson has only unveiled his Credit One Bank scheme. Not much has changed there, a few new stripes, but that dark blue stays the same. And Kurt Busch, as we showed you earlier, when he was changing teams, he brought Monster Energy with him, and that is going to be unveiled on the track this season. Next up is Richard Childress Racing. Hemrick brings on quite a few new schemes, although mostly similar from Newman's last season. He'll have the regular Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats, Caterpillar, Liberty National, and Cessna and Red Cap Workwear. Meanwhile, Austin Dillon brings back Dow and Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats. We also have the JTG Daughtery crew. They have a different strategy. Their sponsors are Kroger, so they'll be unveiling different schemes throughout the year to fit what they're selling in stores in terms of high-selling products. And now, not all of those have been unveiled yet, but we can show you Ryan Preece's primary Kroger car and Chris Buescher's Kleenex Wet Wipes car. Well, that brings us to the Toyotas, who have an impressive portfolio of designs in store. First up is Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch brings back his classic sponsors, M&M's, but this time they're rolling out a new car for the 500. It's based off the M&M's chocolate bar that is now being marketed. He also has the classic M&M's, Interstate Batteries. Martin Truex Jr. is bringing Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats with him to the 19 car. And he has a sharp new look for auto owners insurance, a sharp blue gradient there with the big A for auto owners on the front. Denny Hamlin has a full season sponsor, as he had for quite some time now, and that's in FedEx. But you'll notice that now the primary color is white instead of purple. Meanwhile, Eric Jones, not much has changed in his camp. He'll bring back DeWalt and Reese's Fine Foods. Levine Family Racing has unveiled their primary scheme, as first shown earlier, Matt DiBenedetto's Procore scheme. And last but certainly not least is Go Fast Racing. While they have released one normal scheme, which is Keen Parts, as you see here, their design for the Daytona 500 will be hard to wrap your head around, literally. Teaming up with Old Spice, Corey LaJoie has put his entire face on the hood of the car. You wouldn't want to see that one coming up in your rearview mirror. Now that we've laid the groundwork for what the 2019 season will look like, we'll get you up to speed on the wild finish to the Advanced Auto Parts Clash. We will also show you what storylines to watch for this season, as well as what's behind Fantasy NASCAR. Later, we're taking a trip down memory lane with the 5 best finishes from 2018. You won't want to miss it. Stick with us.
The Great American Race returns. The Daytona 500, February 17th on Fox.
You're just too big, bud. You ain't gonna fit.
You know where you need to go, right?
What?
Go, 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 go! Can't believe he beat you in a Pinewood Derby car.
18 Final Four trips. 9 National Players of the Year. Legendary coaches and players. An iconic postseason tournament. The Valley runs deep.
Slam into the wall.
There's a lot of wrecks at Daytona.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on NASCAR News Now. While the 2019 season has yet to begin from a points earning standpoint, there has already been plenty of conversation and controversy after a wild moment on the track. It came from the Advanced Auto Parts Clash on Sunday. This non-points exhibition race featured 20 drivers, all of whom had to earn their way into the race through either pole awards or wins last season, as well as any previous Daytona 500 winners. Rain had dampened and chopped the race up into multiple delays, but it was what happened during the final segment, right before the last red flag for rain came out, that created quite a bit of buzz. It all began on the backstretch. As rain approached on radar, drivers and teams began to intensify their efforts to move towards the front, knowing that time was running out. Jimmy Johnson knew he had limited time, and so he dove low to make a move on leader Paul Menard. That put Menard in a spin, collecting nearly the entire field into turn 3. This would ultimately be the final event of the clash as rain forced its early cancellation. Menard wasn't too happy with the series of events after first seeing the replay during a live interview with Fox Sports 1.
Pulled out, I kind of moved down. Yeah, I moved down a little bit, and next thing I know, I'm just getting turned in the left rear. So, yeah, just aggressive. Yeah, okay. It's Jimmy does that a lot at these tracks, so it's unfortunate. Had a really fast motorcraft quick lane Ford Mustang, led a lot of laps, and bumped into a car for no reason.
But Jimmy Johnson claims it wasn't intentional and that he knew the rain was approaching and knew he had to act fast.
I was inside of him for a little while before things went haywire. So I don't know what caused his car to get out of control. I didn't hit his rear bumper cover. I made a move and got to the inside and was side drafting him, and his car started wobbling. So I don't know what caused it. It's the last way I want to win a race. I've lost plenty this way. Restrictor plates usually do end this way. So it's plate racing, and I'm here to win races, and I hate there are a bunch of tore up cars, but I didn't drive through a car and create a wreck. So again, I'll look at it some more on tape, but from where I was sitting, it was just a racing incident.
Well, here are the final results from that race. Jimmy took home the trophy with Kurt Busch, Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman rounding out the top 5. Again, this was a non-points race, meaning there are no implications as a result of this event. Earlier in the day, qualifying had taken place on the track. Hendrick Motorsports became the first team to have its 4 cars qualify first, second, third, and fourth during the session, with the order being William Byron, Alex Bowman, Jimmy Johnson, and Chase Elliott. Now, it's important to remember that only the top row of cars will hold their qualifying position for the race on Sunday, with those two being William Byron and Alex Bowman in first and second. The rest will compete in a series of duels this Thursday night to determine their starting spot in the 500. When we come back, we'll show you how you can get involved in our Fantasy NASCAR League, and we'll also recap the 5 best finishes of 2018 that kept fans on the edge of their seats. Stick with us.
Here we go. It's my turn to make history. Start your engine! Let's go. My name's forever known. Yeah, baby! Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legend.
The Daytona 500, February 17th on Fox.
It lives deep in your soul, driving everything you do. It's what wakes you up early and keeps you up late. It's already inside you, where it's always been, waiting to be developed, informed, trained. The way you see the world is powerful, but the way you will lead and transform it is what we're all waiting for. Valparaiso University, where passion meets purpose.
Studio furniture provided by Indiana Furniture.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
Welcome back to NASCAR News Now. Whether you're a diehard race fan or someone who struggles to stay awake on the couch, there's a way for you to become more invested in each and every race. It's in the form of fantasy NASCAR. Yep, you heard that right. Here's how it works. For each race, there are several decisions to make when setting your lineup. The most important aspect is in the form of the starting five and your garage driver. These are the racers that earn you your points. They can be changed out every week, and each driver can be used up to 10 times in the regular season, a total of 26 races. If one of your starting guys has issues before the end of the second stage, whether it be mechanical or a wreck, you can choose to switch him out for your garage driver. In addition, there are bonus picks for the pole winner worth 5 points, stage 1 and 2 winners worth 10 points each, a race winner, which is also worth 10 points, as is your manufacturer pick. Now, if you're interested in fantasy NASCAR, if this intrigues you, but you don't have a league to join, no worries. The NASCAR News Now League is now up and running. Simply create your account on fantasygames.nascar.com and search NASCAR News Now when joining a league. We're looking forward to a fun and exciting season of fantasy. With that being said, let's take a look at some noticeable fantasy picks that you should be considering heading into the ever-unpredictable Daytona 500. Now, it's important to remember that you could pick the best 5 drivers in the world, but if there's a big wreck that takes them out, you're out of luck. So it comes down to a certain degree of luck, especially here at the super speedways. But with that being said, statistically speaking, there are some drivers that should catch your eye. One of them that I like is Ryan Blaney. Now, he has an average starting spot of 13. We'll see how he finishes here in the duels. But it's his mid-race positioning that really helps. Last year in the Daytona 500, he led over 100 laps. Now, granted, while the points are only based on finishing position and he had some problems late, I do like him for stage wins, as you'll get those extra 10 stage points if he were to win a stage, and any driver who were to win a stage. So for Blaney, I like that for him. He has strong performance in the middle of the race, and if he stays out of trouble, he was up in the front last season. I think he could do it again here this season. Another driver I really like is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. His first win came at a superspeedway, Talladega, and he went on to win the Coke Zero 400 that same summer. I do like his chances here. He hasn't performed exactly well in the Daytona 500, but that's not to say he doesn't do well at superspeedways. His average finishing spot is 17.5, which doesn't sound great, but it's among the best here. Our next driver is someone who has been in a huge slump as of late, but I think he's ready to get out of that, and that really showed me that on Sunday when he made that aggressive move on Paul Menard. If you haven't guessed by now, it's the 48 car of Jimmy Johnson with a new crew chief and Kevin Mendering. He's really come on strong this season. He has the speed, he has the skill, and I'm sure he's ready to come to victory lane after a very long winless streak. He hasn't won since Dover in 2017, and he's certainly ready to change that. Now, like most drivers, the problem with the statistics here in the 500 is that you have a mixed bag. Now, sometimes they do very well, but most of the time, they'll get caught up in at least one wreck, and that'll really hurt their statistics. So I'm solely going based off of a momentum standpoint here. I think Jimmy has the momentum. He has the desire to win, and that's why I'm picking him in my lineup. A fourth driver also comes from Hendrick Motorsports. That's William Byron in the 24 car. Winning the pole certainly helped, and while Bowman won the pole last season, And while Bowman won the pole in the 500 last year, he didn't do exactly well, getting caught up in a wreck. But I think William Byron has the potential to run very well. In the Coke Zero 400 last summer, you'll recall that he was racing side by side with Kyle Busch for the lead before he got caught up in a wreck that took him out of the race. Now, that could happen to him again, as it could with any driver. But I do like the skill he's shown. He's won championships in both the Truck and Xfinity Series, and I think he's ready to come out swinging here in 2019. A fifth driver, you might be a little surprised by this. I really like Matt DiBenedetto in that 95 car. Now, you may ask yourself, who's Matt DiBenedetto? And he's certainly flown under the radar being with Go Fast Racing, but he's taking a step up to Levine Family Racing. The team is switching to Toyota, and they'll now have a technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. I think that's huge. DiBenedetto has a ton of passion for racing. I think it could show here this Sunday. You'll recall he restarted third on the overtime restart where Eric Jones ultimately won the Coke 0400, and that was with damage. He ended up finishing 7th. He was also running in the front of the pack in the last 500 before he was caught up in a late race wreck. Needless to say, he doesn't have the best luck in terms of staying out of trouble, but if he does, look for him to be running near the front. Well, while we have turned the page to 2019, it's always fun to rewind to the finishes that kept fans on the edge of their seats last season. There were several finishes that left fans yelling and tempers flared, including myself. Let's take a look back at the 5 most exciting endings from the 2018 season. Our 5th best finish of the season comes from the Coke 0400 last season at Daytona. It was a wreck-filled evening. Tons of cars got knocked out. One of the biggest wreck fests of the year, but it came down to 2 Toyota drivers fighting for the win. As they came up on the last lap, Eric Jones and Martin Truex Jr. were side by side with the cars stacked up behind them, or what was left of the field. But Eric Jones got a nice run going out of turn 2. He was able to get some drafting help from Chris Buescher and AJ Allmendinger. He went roaring down the straightaway and was able to get in front of Truex. He came across the finish line in first, scoring his first Monster Energy Cup Series win. Our 4th best finish comes out of Watkins Glen this past August, where Chase Elliott had to fight his way to his first win. As they came up on the last lap, things looked all right for him. He had a solid lead on Truex, but he took turn 1 too wide. He came screaming up the shoulder. That allowed Truex to close the gap, and that left Truex right on the back bumper of Chase as Chase fought for the win. Chase had previously finished second 8 separate times, and he was winless up until this point. So you can imagine how hard he was fighting. His dad, Bill Elliott, was the spotter for him at one of the sections of the track, but Truex ran out of gas coming to the last segment of the track, and Chase Elliott arrived to the checkered flag with a standing ovation. Chase Elliott scored his first Monster Energy Cup Series win. Our 3rd best finish brings us to Martinsville as playoff drama intensified dramatically. Watch us on the last lap, Joey Logano and Truex. They'd been fighting for several laps. Truex had the advantage coming out of turn 1 into turn 2 as Logano was forced on the outside, but Logano wasn't having it. He rode him down the backstretch. Truex looked like he had it, but Joey Logano put the bumper to the back of him. That got Truex loose. They touched, and both got loose. Truex just about wrecked as they came up to the checkered flag. Denny Hamlin almost got it, but Joey Logano brought home the checkered flag. Not a very popular win, or a very controversial one, I should say. As you'll note, Logano went on to win the 2018 championship, and it was this race that got him into the final race. And Truex was certainly not happy there, voicing his displeasure. Our 2nd best finish brings us to Chicago. Kyle Larson had been chasing down Kyle Busch for the past 10 laps. As they went to turn 1, Kyle Larson pulled the ultimate slide job, dove down low, tried to come up high and get in front of Kyle Busch. It didn't work, but he clipped the back of him, sending Busch into the wall. This gave Larson momentum as they both roared down the backstretch. Larson had the advantage going into turn 3, but if you know Kyle Busch, you know he doesn't like losing. He puts the bumper to the back of Larson. That gets Larson loose. 18 goes up into the wall. Busch is able to bounce off and complete the pass of Kyle Larson. Larson can't quite recover in time, and Kyle Busch brings home the win at Chicago. One of the most exciting finishes in recent memory, especially at 1.5 miles. Now, there were some fans who weren't particularly happy with Busch's win, but he didn't seem to care. And our final, most exciting finish of the year came at an already exciting race. It was the first time coming to the Roval, and they had just gotten off a huge wreck. Jimmy Johnson fighting to break his winless streak, also trying to get into the next round of the playoffs. He was able to hang on with Truex, but it wasn't until they got to the backstretch when he really started to close the gap. He outperformed Truex in the chicane. That led Johnson to the back bumper of Truex, fighting to the finish line. Johnson got a great run coming out of the last turn, but as he headed into the final chicane, Johnson locked up the brakes. He spun around and clipped Martin Truex Jr., sending Truex into the wall. Johnson had to stop as he was penalized for cutting a shortcut. Ryan Blaney shoots the gap through the middle of them and wins his 2nd Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series win. Well, that'll just about do it for us here at NASCAR News Now. We've broken down all the upcoming rule, driver, and team changes heading into the 2019 season. But before we see you again next month, here's where the Cup Series is heading in the next few weeks. All times are Central. Daytona this Sunday at 1:30 p.m. They head to Atlanta the Sunday after, February 24th at 1 p.m. Next up, NASCAR goes west. They begin the swing at Las Vegas March 3rd at 2:30. Phoenix comes next. I'll actually be at that race March 10th, 2:30 p.m. Next up, they head out to California. Good old Auto Club, March 17th, also at 2:30, before they come back east to Martinsville, Sunday, March 24th at 1 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of NASCAR News Now. You can find us on Facebook. Just search NASCAR News Now to get in on the discussion and latest headlines. We're looking forward to recapping early season action in our next episode. I'm Blake Harms. For now, so long, and we'll see you next time on NASCAR News Now.